Good night. Hi, everybody. This is ABM and Complicated Melody, and welcome to the sixth episode of Add Water and Stir, a podcast devoted to promoting adoption and foster care in communities of color. And I, of course, am ABM, and you'll see our host here, Complicated Melody. Tell people, say hi, girl. What's going
Hey,
on?
everybody. Welcome to our sixth episode. This is Mimi of Complicated Melody, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Woo woo.
So, how's it shaking, ABM? What's been going on with you for the last couple of weeks?
Well, it's kind of been still having a little bit of the blues around here, but we are managing. I have a new do.
I love it.
Thank you,
Love
thank
it.
you. I got it cut yesterday, and this is my hair. I grew it out for 2.5 years, and that was the longest that my hair had been in probably over 10 years, maybe closer to 15. I really don't do long hair, and I had just kind of gotten to a point the beginning of this week that I said I needed to exercise, feel like I had some kind of control over something in my life, so I took it out of my hair.
It's all wavy and look like you used juices and berries in there.
Grease.
Not that grease that you said you put in there last week. That looked like some other stuff. Some
This
coconut
would be
oil and some
blue
essential.
magic. Blue magic. Don't
See
stun
what
on
blue
my.
magic, see what a little dab of grease will do for you.
See, there you go. Like the kids say, just hook it up with some waves, girl. Waves for days. But we're doing all right. Hope started eighth grade this week, and it's doing beautifully. And I had to, I've been spending the last couple of days emailing teachers, some teachers that she had last spring, kind of giving them a little update, and then introducing us to new teachers and kind of helping with some of that transition and things that I felt like they needed to know about her. And it's eighth grade is a big deal. It's like you're finally at the top of middle school, so you got some weird social dynamics going on. Oh, apparently being 13 is so hard. I choose not to remember, but being the parent of a 13-year-old is also hard.
So tell me this, as part of your things that you felt like the teachers need to know, did you talk to them about her being adopted?
I did. I did. And, last, when she moved here, originally I didn't want to tell people. I didn't want to tell a lot of people at the school. But when we took a tour, when she came to visit last fall, and then when she started school in January, February, my girl was just so off the chain, resistant and upset, and it's so different from my other school, and I don't want to be here, and this is just BS. That in kind of working with the counselors, we had to disclose everything. And it really did help and make the teachers a lot more patient with her and some of the behavioral change issues that we had to deal with last semester. And I don't think that those issues will be as big of a deal, but I'm finding right now that our biggest issue is dealing with correction, and those things can go two ways. Either there's a complete shutdown where it's like, I am not wrong, I'm right. The sky is green with purple polka dots. I don't understand why you can't see it, you're dumb. And so she shuts down, and this kind of need to be right and to have primacy over everything, and it makes it very difficult to work with her sometimes. Or she goes to the other end and says, oh my God, I got it wrong, and so I'm bad. And when she's bad, that has sometimes meant that she had to move. And so then she kind of shuts down that way. And so we're really struggling with how to deal with corrective issues regarding behaviors, or even just kind of learning new material, which she's like, oh no, I know what that is. And I'm like, you don't know what it is. And it's okay that you don't have to. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're struggling with. And I felt like the teachers really needed to know that she was struggling with correction and learning, not because she's just being difficult, but because it really means something much deeper to her.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
go Hope. Hopefully this will be
Go.
a good eighth grade year for her. So
Yes, yes. Oh, and we do have, of course, the furry one is gone, but we got J and Bay Crab, the crabbers.
Jay and Bay.
Right.
Okay. All right. Keeping the Trinity going here with the on the
But
run tour.
yeah, so we got a couple of hermit crabs, but Bay didn't make it. She only lasted like about 24 hours, but Jay is still kind of kicking it. I don't know. You
What
know,
happened to the grass?
I don't know. Within 24 hours, we went to go pick her up and check on her and splash a little water on her, and her leg fell off, and it just didn't end well for her.
Oh. She's like, I don't want to be here no more.
The good girl gone bad thing didn't really work out for her. So we will get
Not
Babe
with
the
one leg
second.
gone.
No,
Yeah.
so we will get Babe the second this weekend. We will be replacing her and upgrading my boy over here. So, but we're doing all right. So tell us what's going on with you.
Well, I've gotten a lot of nasty grams about not updating my blog in quite some time. Not a lot, but
Everybody watching is nodding.
uh, so I promise, I'm gonna say it's on the video that I will update this blog by this weekend, and I'll do a little something. I just haven't been in the blogging mood, and I really need to learn how to write through those moments where you have a lot to say, but you don't know how to say it. So I just need to learn how to write through those moments. We actually have a date for our adoption, so I'm excited about that. It's going to be in late September, so we are
Woohoo!
excited. It's interesting because I'm really hyped about it. I want to have a celebration because um, and people who are going through foster care and adoption experiences, some can relate to this, that you miss out on some of those big milestones. You're not having necessarily the baby showers, and you're not having everybody show up and help you with casserole dishes and everything, and people
Mm,
showing up at the hospital. So you're missing out on some of those things. So I feel like I want to celebrate something. Like, I really
yeah,
want people to realize, like, um, this is a big deal for us.
yeah.
Interestingly, my husband would. It's kind of like womp womp womp. She's been with us for 6 months. So is this really a big deal? So we're still kind of finagling through those issues. I'm finessing him. So I hope to report back
Right.
with some good news about this big celebration we're having.
Um, you
Um,
know, Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say with the day, your finalization day, it reminded me that today I saw an interesting article that from a blogger that we've mentioned before, the Red Thread.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm so
Red thread
sorry.
broken.
Red Thread Broken. Yeah, she has a new blog post up. I don't know if it's really new or if it's just kind of making the rounds again about what's wrong with Gotcha Day and
Mhm.
that particular terminology and kind of talking about um, how for some families it's offensive. They prefer Family Day or the child's name day. Like, so for us, it would be Hope Day or something like that. But recognizing, and the other thing that was I found interesting about the blog was that it was the different days that folks celebrated. So some folks actually celebrated on the day of placement versus the day of
Mhm.
finalization, and all of these kinds of things. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm happy to disclose that we didn't have a problem with the terminology "gotcha day" because it wasn't a me possessing her. It was a us joining together. We got each other. And I don't know if that just worked for us because we're just a twosome, the awesome duo, or what. But I certainly understand from this particular adoptee's perspective how that particular term might rub the wrong way, but in any case I think that finalization day is awesome. We celebrated, we had barbecue.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, we're gonna have a little cookout and have out in the park where the kids can run around and play and have. It's really about what going to be fun for her. And I think that I did read that blog about Gotcha Day, and I've read other thoughts about Gotcha Day. Um, for us, I'm thinking more of this is in a sense like a family anniversary. I look at it not exactly like a marriage, but in some ways, you are really, this is the day that you are legally binding yourselves together to each other. And this is the day that we actually become a family.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's something for us to celebrate. And for many people, it's on the birthday, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
there's nothing really, maybe there's not a lot of thought put into it. It's just your birthday. But it's
Right.
also really them joining your family day too. And since that doesn't happen on her birthday, it's happening on a different day, I want to celebrate that. Um, and she's 2, right? She's two and a
Right.
half, so she really doesn't know. So maybe, I'll continue to keep a pulse out to see how she feels about it as she gets older. But it
Yeah.
sounds like Hope was all for it. So,
Yeah, I mean, she thought that it was an interesting, she thought it was a neat colloquialism, and you know, but at 13, who knows? I'm really open to us just doing something cool on June 6th every year. And for me, it really doesn't matter what we call it. It's not like I'm really gonna find a Hallmark card for it on the regular anyway. So
right, exactly. Unless we make some. Here we go. We got a little another thing to do. Make some adoption cards with some little black kids on the front. Hey,
we're branching out.
we home.
We home.
So, the other thing is that I've been trying to treat myself by asking for help. So my sister came down for the weekend. My mother was here the week before, or 2 weeks before, and just enjoying them being around and helping out and getting to know Nana. So that's good.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm thinking about is what's next. So the way my agency works is once you adopt, you are out of commission really for a year because they really want you to take that time to bond with your child. If you had decided to foster before you went to adoption placement, you could, but if you didn't, then you need to wait a year.
Okay.
So, what else can I do in this meantime? I mean, I'm going to be bonding with Nana, but I want to continue adoption advocacy, right? I want to continue to um, help the community in some way. We're doing that through the podcast, but what can I do right here in my local community? So I'm
Sure.
thinking about the next steps for me. So those are the main things I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks.
Awesome. Good deal. Wow. Yeah, it's funny because the next step piece I didn't really give a lot of thought to. We've just kind of been taking this at
You got your hands full, you have your hands full. I feel like with a teenager, that's enough. That's your advocacy right here. Like
you
if this
know,
child lives to 14, we have
right.
made it through, right?
Right. Yeah, it's certainly I'm really involved in my agency's support group structure, and I've got some other families that I've just kind of bonded with as we've gone through the process, and so we check in. One is about to have her placement. Her child has been coming to visit. Um, really, it's been kind of interesting because they could keep coming to do these cross country visits, and I'm like, pull the trigger already, like move the kid. It's kind of hard, when you go back and forth. But I check on a few folks, and that's pretty much all I can handle. And it's funny because I end up always talking to them on nanny night,
Okay.
and I'm
During
like,
your downtime, that's when you chat.
yeah, like this is
That's
for your
supposed to be the
crisis.
wine and a good pajama night, right?
Well, it has turned into the I can't booze at the federal park because I'm like on the banks of the river. I got my takeout. I bring a lawn chair. I got a blanket, and I'm by my dang self. And I know people are looking at me like,
Is
really?
there some
Like,
other things going? Is the music out there? Like, what's happening?
no, it's quiet.
Oh, okay.
It's quiet. Go off to the side. I don't want any bugs, no duck, no nothing. It's just leave me alone. And so that's been kind of thwarted each time. I have a midweek nanny night. Either it's a Tuesday or Thursday, and then we have nanny nights on Friday or Saturday. So kind of got that on the books now, and so I have 2 days a week where I can kind of just check out. And so far, those couple of nights have been sucked up by family. So I feel like I'm doing my part.
Ooh. I think one day we need to do a podcast on how your budget has changed since you brought a child into your life, because that nanny night, I know, is not free, so
It is not free.
and once we get these CPS up out of our business, we can actually start using babysitting services.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, because me and Wood can have some date nights.
You gotta
I'm
have
thinking about it.
nanny night is really important to me, and I made a financial commitment for the next couple of months. We know what the dates are, and that's it. And but it is a big financial commitment. But I am like throwing the money at the nanny, running out the like. You go,
I got a special date just for you.
Right. I'm throwing the money and just making it rain in the living room. I gotta go. So
I haven't bought new shoes or new clothes in 3 months, but I'm going on nanny
night. I'm going to nanny night though. I might be going to McDonald's, but I'm going to nanny night. So
I just want to mention that the chat is open, so you can, because we are already starting to get crunk in the podcast already, but you can put some questions or comments or things that you want us to talk about in the chat or the Q&A piece of it.
Yes. So why don't we go ahead and get into our topic? This is kind of a special episode that we've been kicking around for a couple of weeks, and Mimi and I have struggled a little bit with this topic and how we wanted to talk about it, what we wanted to say. Things were so emotional, but this episode is called What's Going On, and we want to talk a bit about current events and kind of what's gone on recently in Ferguson, Missouri, with the death of 18-year-old Michael Brown. And we want to talk about raising kids of color, power and privilege, and what our real hopes and fears and dreams are for our kids as people of color and African Americans in our case specifically, but really kind of thinking about what happened there and how that affects or should affect all parents in the way that we think about rearing our kids. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And I've got a bunch more articles. And, I don't know if, Mimi, if you want to kind of give some of your really broad stroke thoughts about what happened in Ferguson and kind of what's been happening nationally in this discussion about children of color and what value is placed on our children, and what are our responsibilities in raising them.
So it's a good question, and it's really one of the reasons why I've been so silent on my blog. I've really had a hard time in the last 3 weeks or so, even the last month, dealing with kind of the onslaught of issues pertaining to raising Black children. And that's why if you go to my blog right now, you'll see a poem called I'm Raising Children here. And it talks about I'm raising children. I'm not raising pigs to be slaughtered. I'm raising, I'm not just doing what I do just for these children to be cut down in the prime of their life. And that's really what the poem is about, and that's really what I've been feeling, that it just has felt like an onslaught of just, and part of it's because of the media. So I think we need to talk about really how media has changed how we consume all this information, right? So there was a time before where a situation like this would happen in Missouri, in St. Louis, and maybe just the St. Louisans would hear about it. So we wouldn't necessarily know about all this. But now you hear about the issue in Missouri, and then you hear about an issue in Florida, and then you hear about an issue in Michigan, and you hear about issues in Chicago. And it feels so overwhelming that I had to actually step back. And I was like, if it's not ratchet, I don't want to talk about it, because I just felt like I
I
felt
got
like
you.
I couldn't deal with it. I just felt like I couldn't deal with it. And I think the addition of a child to our life has changed the way we look at it so differently, because now that I have a child, I'm like, that could be my child. Before it was like that could be me, but now I'm older, so I maybe don't identify as closely. But now I'm like, that's my child, or that's my child's friend, or that's the child that my friend is walking to school with, or that's the child that my child is in the car with when they get pulled over. So all these things are kind of been an onslaught to me, and I've just had to pull back a little bit to say, how do I kind of manage those emotions? What about you? How have you been kind of feeling these last couple weeks?
Well, I did write a little bit more specifically about what I was thinking at the time in a post that I called "Talking About Ferguson," and things kind of jumped off in Ferguson right around the time that we lost the furry one. So I was kind of in a really weird space anyway, and it just kind of for a few days right after the murder, and I mean, I'm going to own that word. That's what I think it was, of this 18-year-old kid. You know, it took me a couple of days to kind of pop my head up from my little gopher hole and say, holy moly, like there's been a lot going on, and we watch a lot of Disney Channel, so we kind of avoided it in terms of just talking about it, Hope and I. And then finally I kind of really was watching it coverage at night and in the office and kind of really thinking about it, and it just really hurt me to my heart because I just remember Trayvon Martin, and last year some of the conversations that Hope and I had, and even just this spring, and one night, she just said, why is it okay to kill black boys? And I really wasn't sure how to answer that. And I think a lot about what do I have to teach her to survive? First, there's survival, and I mean, you can't get to thriving until you're surviving. And so, I really have watched her over the last month, and because she's an older kid, she has this kind of understanding of the world that she's really good at articulating. And she doesn't trust the police at all. She finds that they're a part of the system. And so she, I don't know how she would even react if there was some type of law enforcement confrontation, because she has such strong views on law enforcement and what would that mean for her in a country where we shoot first and ask questions later. And even if she isn't there, I also think about folks on the outskirts of the actual event who become a part of the narrative, like Gentile Rachel and the Trayvon Martin case, and how, I mean, the media just dragged this young woman, this young girl, and they asked her just really inappropriate questions, and it was just a really tough thing to watch this young girl go through. But she was made of steel, and I just remember seeing her on Pierce Bronson, and she just took that man toe to toe. And I thought, well, how then, if I have to raise this young black girl into a young black woman, what do I need to teach her so that she's strong like that, but that she's also able to navigate systems in a way that will keep her safe? How do I help her navigate not just kind of institutionalized systems, but informal social systems as well? And so I've given a lot of thought to that, and I don't, I know how my parents raised me, and I'm trying to do that but we don't share 13 years of history.
Right.
So it's kind of tough.
I think the interesting part about it is it starts even now. I'm thinking about those issues now. Nana is only 2, but when we talk about teaching her how to survive, like teaching your child how to survive, and also understanding how the world is going to see her. They're going to see her as a threat, and I think that is unfortunate that that's a world that I'm raising a child in? And how do I manage her self-esteem and her I want her to be optimistic. I want her to feel like she is beautiful and kind and smart and she has the possibilities to do all that. And then I have to teach her this duality that yes, you are all of that, but people might see you differently. And it starts even now. So even now I think about things like is she in the daycare? And will she be given the grace and the patience if she's going through a developmental phase? So if she's going through a phase where she's fighting or tantruming or biting or whatever, will they give her the grace to kind of go through that? Or will they automatically look at her because she is a young black girl as either developmentally challenged or aggressive or any of that, even as a 2-year-old?
Yeah.
And it seems abnormal to think about things like that, but I have friends who have experiences where their child has gotten kicked out of daycare after one incident. And we wonder, like, is it, what's the reason? And the bad thing is you're always having to think about, is that the reason? So I'm already thinking about things like that here, and she's only 2. And those are the things I'm thinking about now, because how she's tracked now is going to affect her future. So if she's tracked into the slow class or the aggressive class or the angry class or the disabled class or any of those classes, that's going to affect, you know, what her outcome is going to be in the future.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to talk about privilege and the different kinds of privilege in light of this, because you know, the folks in Ferguson, I mean, it is not an affluent community, and so when you layer issues of race onto issues of lack of affluence or you know, economic marginalization or poverty, then things just kind of get worse, and you see a lot less grace.
Right.
And you know, and I see even just the privilege that is afforded me and Hope. You know, we've had some incidents where, you know, transitions are incredibly difficult for her, as they are for a lot of foster and adopted kids. And, you know, she goes, there have been a couple times where she's gone off on folks. And yeah, on the first incident, they were like, you got to go. I can't deal with that. And then I have to show up and I have to play this position of, you know, upwardly mobile, safe black person.
Right. Right.
You know, to kind of smooth things over. And so then it's kind of, you know, I wrestle with not only kind of how they see her, what they think of me, what responsibilities do I have in terms of helping her, you know, deal with transitions better and just improve overall behavior, but also learn how to code switch and play a new position that she has never played in a life that is incredibly new to her. And code switching is an incredibly big part of that.
I agree with that. That code switching is a big part of it. The other thing that when you talk about privilege and class too is because of Nana's environment, will she have the ability to code switch? How do I teach her, right? This, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. How do I teach her? Because where we live, you know, the system and the way she kind of interacts with the world, everybody is a friend, right? So the police to her are probably happy people who police our neighborhood and wave at her, you know, because that's the neighborhood we live in. But as she gets older and she expands her network of friends and she's on the other side of town, you know, at her friend's house, that may not be the case, because and just like you talked about in Ferguson, when you talk about the economics of the situation and where she's at, they may not interact with her in a friendly manner that way. And will she have that kind of what we call as common sense or street smarts or whatever to be able to understand this how you're going to act over here and this how you're going to, and am I going to be able to give her that? Because we're not hanging out over there like that anymore. I'm concerned. Like, these are things, and I'm like, she is only 2. And these are things that I'm thinking about all the time. That's a lot of stress if you think about this compounding over time, right? You're in the middle of it because you have a 12-year-old, 13-year-old right now. So you're right in the throes of those conversations where you are um, giving permission to go out and hang out and do things with groups of people and in places where you're not there to help police the situation, right? Or you're
Yeah.
not there to help her
Yeah.
navigate through the situations. To
Yeah.
me, it just feels so scary right now.
Well, yeah, it's funny because you said, wow, I'm thinking about this when she's 2, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't have a lot of time to teach her the essential things that she needs to know. I don't have a lot of time. But, there was I think that one of the things that folks really have to come to grips with, and I deal with this in my day job, but also with other friends and colleagues that I engage with, is that we have a huge population that really just doesn't believe that race matters anymore. Racism is dead. We have a black president. We're in post-racial times. It's, we're good. We're groovy. And, I had a Facebook discussion, because I don't like to call it a fight, because it wasn't a fight, but, someone kind of engaged me. And usually I don't do I don't do the social media kind of engagement on issues of race too much, because it's exhausting, and you kind of can go around in circles. But someone just told me that my perception of the world was just not factually based. And in terms of my own experience in walking around in this skin for 41 years. And I took this person to the woodshed. Like, I did it politely, but I took him to the woodshed and dragged him around. And I talked about going to a recent professional meeting where, only a couple of hundred black people are there, and I'm a national figure, and they still call me by somebody else's name, and I have a name tag on, how the TSA searched my hair going to that destination and
Yes.
coming back to that destination, how at some airports, Indianapolis, I'm talking about you, I just go ahead and put my hair back, or just find some way of conforming, because they just search my hair every time I go there, and I talked about some of these things, and I talk about the things that I lay awake at night worrying about hope. And what do I need to teach her to survive, and how do I teach her not to be so angry, and how do I teach her not to retaliate in a way that isn't really worthy of her grace that she can actually have for herself. And it's these are things that kind of keep me up at night. But I also recognize that for a lot of other I think that certainly, let's just say, parents of all kids, no matter what color or background they're from, lay awake at night worrying about their kids.
Right.
I genuinely believe that. And, I wanted to mention, certainly talk a little bit about transracial adoption. I want kids to have homes. So, I'd love to see more people of color adopting, and certainly I'd love to see them adopting kids of color, but adopt whomever you want.
Right.
Adopt
I mean, the
kids.
situation is that, we have a lot of children of color that are in the system, and they need homes and they need loving parents. And so,
And so, there are a number of blogs that I've read where, some families, transracial families, adopted families, where the parents were white and the kids were African American, or some other racial background different from their parents, said, oh, it doesn't really matter. It really just doesn't matter. And I just have to say, for me, I don't know how responsible that is. I'm not saying that they're bad parents, but I think that it just kind of sets some kids up for some real issues that are legitimate racial identity issues later. And so there were some great articles that I came across. One, there's a really great video. It's about 8 minutes long. I'm not going to show it, but we'll put it in the show notes, that Don Lemon did on CNN last month, with a panel about raising African American males in the current environment, and how do we value their lives, and those types of things. But there were some really great things on HuffPost. There was an article that was published last year called "Raising Culturally Responsive Black Children in White Adoptive Homes: Uncovering the Importance of Code Switching in the Battlefield of Racial Identity Development." And it was really a good, thoughtful essay about, how do white parents teach their children of color how to negotiate white spaces, and how do they kind of navigate some of these things, and where do they find resources, because as much as some folks say that they want a colorblind society, we don't live in one.
I think that's important because, I think there are a lot of transracial families that are trying their best, right? That are looking up resources, getting into conversations and trying to find ways to educate their children. But then there are also families who are like, we're a colorblind family. That's how we raise them. And I feel like Ferguson, and even before Ferguson, I mean, there's so many things that we can identify. Trayvon Martin and all these kind of incidents should be in a way an indicator that there's something happening if you have a black child or you have another child of another different than you, a minority, that there are some things that you may be missing in the conversation. Like, it's not always just because the person committed a crime, or it's just not always just happenstance, that perhaps there are biases walking around, and we really need to address that. And until those parents can be okay with admitting that, it's going to be hard for them to even kind of start to have those conversations with their children, or look out for opportunities for them to find out more about those issues. So I guess one of the things I think that's good about this podcast is that we're talking about the issue, we're raising it. So maybe in a way we can be a resource to, these are some of the issues that we're thinking about as parents of African American children. And so if you have African American children, these might be issues that may be pertinent to you too. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, but and I'll take it actually one step further. Whether you have African American kids or not, you need to be talking to your kids about race.
Absolutely.
And not for the purposes of actually creating some kind of separatism or separatist movement, but really kind of talking about the social constructs of race and how those things operate in society, so that you can make sure that you're raising culturally conscious and culturally aware kids, and that different isn't always bad. Different can be a beautiful thing. And I want to shout out Serial Adopter. I had on my announcement for tonight's podcast.
Serial Adopter.
We love her, but she sent in a comment, and for a future podcast, I'll actually have this box where you can kind of send me some comments, and we can talk about them on the show. But I wanted to kind of take a moment to read her comment. She is she is a transracial adoptive family mom, and she writes, "Love that you're going to talk about this. As you know, we are a transracial adoptive family, and we often talk about race, much to the chagrin of some of my white friends. We had a long conversation about Michael Brown, just as we had a conversation about Trayvon. It's an ongoing process. I grew up in the 60s and walked with my parents in civil rights marches, had black foster sisters while growing up, etc. So these discussions aren't new due to our current family makeup. However, it's a whole different conversation when you think of your black son who is already impulsive due to early trauma and such, and knowing that no matter what we teach him, his impulsivity might get the best of him, and who knows what might happen. Thanks for approaching the subject. I'll be anxious to watch the podcast. Hi." But, she actually raises a piece of it that we hadn't thought about, or at least I did kind of touch a little bit on, with respect to Hope and her distrust for law enforcement, and some things that she struggles with in terms of impulsivity, that these are things that may make our children, and especially our children of color, but all of our adoptive children, more at risk for,
right. Absolutely.
at risk for a potential negative outcome that may be based or rooted in an overreaction, an over or excessive use of force, when really there's kind of a whole backstory to understanding what brought this kid to this particular moment. And so I'm glad that she brought that up, but it's something that I think that we all need to talk to our kids about. In my day job, I do a lot of teaching, and I'm always stunned to find how my white students are like, oh, well, I don't have a racial identity. I mean, I'm white, and I'm just white. And I'm like, but that is a racial identity. Like, we need to do some development.
That is a race, and it is identity. Yes.
Yeah, and it's and kind of understanding what that means, and socially. And I mean, it is a social construct in this country. And if you're interested in doing some kind of reading about race as a social construct, there's some really great articles. And if you're interested in doing some provocative reading about race and race relations, Ta-Nehisi Coates from The Atlantic is a prolific writer on this subject, and I just scoot on over to The Atlantic. He's also on Twitter, and he will blow your mind. He is fearless in his writing about the subject, and really will make you sit up and take pause and think about what kinds of conversations we should be having with our families.
Interestingly enough, Angela Tucker, who has the blog, what is it? The Adopted Life. She's a transracial adoptee. She's an African-American woman who was raised by white adoptive parents. So she writes on her blog, and actually I think this is posted at the Lost Daughters, about the responsibility of transracial families in raising and talking about these issues with their children. And one of the things that she says is, how will white adoptive parents teach lessons of safety to their growing black sons? How will they teach it that it's okay for some people to trash talk during a spirited football game, but not then? And she goes on to kind of highlight some other things that I guess are very maybe relevant to even her experiences growing up as a transracial adoptee. So I think there's also space in this conversation for those who have actually grown up in these situations and now are old enough to really speak on the experience and maybe how their adoptive parents helped them, and then also ways that they could have done more to help them be prepared for the world that they really have to live in now. So
absolutely,
that's another resource.
Yes. So if you're any kind of adopted family and you have some comments on this, please hit us up on Twitter or email us or use the form. I know I have a podcast page on my blog, and there's a form there as well that you can kind of fill out and send it to us, and we will, I'm sure that we will be revisiting this topic.
Yes, we will.
over and over and over again. We're going to post in the show notes in a couple of days a number of articles that I've pulled, and there's all kinds of interesting things. Madame Noir's website has some interesting stuff, those kinds of articles like where's the best places to raise African American families, which I think is important just to be mindful of, that these are things that maybe have social structures or additional support systems for different kinds of families. There's a site that I found that had the worst state to raise black kids. Sadly, that state was Wisconsin. It's a really kind of challenging article to read, but Virginia, which is where I am, didn't actually do too bad. I mean, we're like in the top, we're above the median, so I was kind of
well, that's good for y'all. That's good. I don't even want to ask about my state. I don't even want to say anything about it. Don't even look it up.
Actually, you guys were only a couple of rungs down from us. I think you were still above the median, well above the median. So, so we'll post some of that
stuff. That is surprising.
Hey, so we'll post some of that stuff there as well. And so it is almost quarter to 11, so we're going to start transitioning to, dun, 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 thanks to future adopter, the wind down.
And I have my wine today. Do you have some wine today?
I'm not drinking wine, but I do have some Baileys.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, I've got my own, little lighter fluid over here that I'm working on. I had to be a little careful. I had a big allergy thing and had to load up on some Benadryl, so I had to kind of wait for some of that to clear the system a little bit. Otherwise, I would have been...
You got me knocked out after this podcast.
So tonight we're going to talk about a couple of our favorite shows again, and we will start with the most ratchet. Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, the reunion shows. OMG. These fools.
You know what? It just continues to reach the newest level of low. Just when you like, okay, this is the worst. It just continues to get to the worst, and then you just feel like the word no longer has any meaning. That's how it's going.
It's just, it's funny because the reunion, they have all of these shows, these reality shows. And so, first it was like, okay, we're going to do the reunion. And then the reunions became 2 parts. And now they're like 3 parts. And, so they've shown the first 2 episodes of the reunion for Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. And the second episode just turned into an all-out melee between Jocelyn, Stevie J, Benzino, and is she his wife yet?
I don't know. Yes. You're talking about Thee or whatever that chick's name.
I don't know. He's got a tattoo all along his torso.
That looks awful, but tell him to keep his shirt on. Who told him to take it off on television?
It was just too much. But yeah,
this is the deal about that situation. I'm an advocate of keeping your hands to yourself. You're right. So all that fighting is just very extra. But I'm definitely not a fan of now all of y'all sitting here acting like y'all had nothing to do with the situation. So now everybody is sitting back. What do they call it? Tuesday night quarterback, and what is it? I don't know. Is it? That's that how it goes? My husband will be so mad at me. But
who wasn't watching the game before she came on the podcast?
Today he was like, it's kickoff tonight. I'm like, oh, okay. But anyway, everybody's sitting back. I think Jocelyn really has a problem with drugs. Like, most of those people on that stage probably have more than a casual relationship with some kind of illicit substance. So, I don't understand why everybody there is acting like, she's the only one with the problem. As though they haven't been talking crap on Twitter, as though they haven't been, saying crazy stuff back and forth. So now everybody's like, I really think she has a problem. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I just love to hate this show. I really do. I do. I love to hate it. And I didn't get a chance to watch it live on Monday night. So I think I was watching it on Tuesday during the day while I was telecommuting. And I'm texting Mimi like, what are they doing on this show? What is happening? There's ponytails flying, shoes going. I mean, they just kind of bum rush the stage, and I mean, it's just.
But I did think that was Tammy's real hair, so I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay.
No.
You ain't got that, Hawaiian silky that I thought you had. Okay.
I mean, it was long because the bun that she had up under it was pretty significant, but still, it was a whole mane of. It was a whole horse's tail, of hair that was just being slung around, and and then Mama Waka Flocka is jumping into the fray. I was like, we are just too old for this foolishness.
I don't know. I feel Mama Flocka Waka Flame, whatever her name is, Deb. I don't want to say her name because.
She might come after us.
But anyway.
And I'm not ready.
I'm not ready, but I think she's a very sweet woman. I think she has a good heart. I think I tweeted that, she probably had barbecues at her house, and I think she
I want to be Deb's friend.
I too. I want to be a dead friend for a couple of reasons. For the food that she probably cooks, but also for the protection she provides. So I understand what she said. Look, that's not what I do, but if it comes to me, I'll get down with it.
Right.
So
Right.
I get where she's coming from,
Yeah.
you know.
She was like, "That's my daughter-in-law. We can't do all of this." So
I want my mother-in-law to go hard for me too. So
yes, I am. I was feeling Deb, but yeah, that foolishness will conclude next week with some post melee interviews with the.
I don't know if I'm interested.
Well,
honestly,
I'll be here.
Like, what are y'all talking about?
I'll be there to report the good, bad, and ugly because
okay,
it's just.
I'll depend on your report.
It really is like watching a train wreck, and you're just rubbernecking for an entire hour. It's sad. It's so sad.
Maybe one day we can talk about the effects of reality TV on our brains, really. Because, I mean, I look at it for entertainment, but I do think that it has a negative effect on our kids because they think that that's how you're supposed to interact with people. Like, when you get mad at them, you're supposed to fight them. Like, what?
I really try to restrict Hope's consumption of reality TV to next to nothing. It's bad. And I'm also, not only am I concerned about it just dumbing us down and making us impulsive, but it really, as much as I tune in, and I know I'm a part of the problem, so y'all can just be upset, but it does bother me how women in general and women of color act a damn fool on the day on all of these shows. I mean,
well, men of color acting a fool too because I promise you, I'm sure Scrappy hit that woman.
Yes.
And they blacked that out.
Yes.
And then that fight in that Stevie J. Wait a minute. So let me do say this. Did you see how what's his name? Jocelyn and Stevie J both got up at the same time and bum rushed the place.
I mean, they just came flying, stalking across the stage.
I mean, in some ways, I mean, I don't condone it, but it was kind of like a beautiful thing to see.
I mean, but are you ever gonna see Jay-Z and Beyonce go stalking across the stage like that?
He said, "I got your back, whatever you do," and she got up, he got up too, and they both went for it. And I was like, "Wow."
Ride or die.
Like, would you be there right next to me if I decided I was gonna do that?
Yo, I'm gonna tell you what, Ellie Who is gonna be like, no.
You're gonna be still sitting there. You're gonna be like, come on.
I'm gonna be grabbing you and making you sit back down on the couch. Sit down on the couch. But yeah, so and we are at the next to the last episode of Married at First Sight, and
I can't deal with these people no more. No. These people. I didn't even get to live tweet. I felt bad, you know. Monet, I missed you. I missed chatting with you this week on Twitter.
She seemed to finally kind of get it together a little bit, but I got really mad at her last night, and I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing last night, so I watched the rest of it today, but I had to say, I did tweet her and say, girl, I need you to just cook this man a hot dog or something. Like, for real. It is not that serious. I need you to not, the feminist movement is not going to die if you don't cook this man like a hot dog. I really need you to chill.
So here's the point. You cannot ask for a traditional man and then turn around and then say you're chauvinistic. I mean, you can say that, but then it feels disingenuous, right? So what does it mean? What'd you say?
It doesn't feel disingenuous. It is disingenuous.
What does it mean when you say traditional? So you expect him to pay the bills, take out the trash and all these other things, but then when he turns around like, okay, cool, but then you cook, and then you like, but you're a chauvinist pig. I'm like, right. What? Girl.
I mean, I don't kind of feel for Vaughn, because every time he's like, so if I really want you to cook dinner for me, that's like a problem? Like she's like, well, no, if you want me to, that's not a problem. But if you expect me to, that's chauvinistic. I was like, girl, bye. Like, I need you to go fix this man a damn hot dog and, like, be quiet.
Monet, I don't know. They're in trouble. For their romantic gifts, they gave each other watches. What? I mean,
and clearly they don't have friends.
I get a watch from work.
Clearly they don't have coworkers.
Anniversary.
What is it? You're never supposed to buy a man a watch or some shoes? Isn't that how the date goes? time will fly and he'll walk out of your life or some craziness. I don't know. Some wives' tale from way back in the day. But I saw they gave each other watches, and I was like, this is not going to end well.
They
It's a
both
nice
gave
watch.
each other watches, and that to me is a very nice gift,
Yeah.
and personal gift. You know,
Yeah.
it's very easy to shop for a watch. Like you don't have to put a lot of thought into it. It's like buying them
Going
a
down to the
wallet.
Macy's.
You could have just bought them a wallet. That would have just been just as easy. You
Just one
know.
of the Velcro joints. I mean, it's just I just don't get them. I mean, and I was rooting for them, but I'm really also tired of the counselor guy going. They are so compatible. I know it doesn't seem like it, but they are. Stop.
No, these people are not compatible. They're
So
not, because they and Monet was self-reflective in what she said, that when I asked for these certain things, I didn't really think about what it meant if I asked for a guy that had these traits. Then he's also going to have some other traits that
right,
may not align with me. I can't ask for a traditional guy and then I want to be a non-traditional woman.
right,
It just
right.
won't mesh up together. And I think that's from the very beginning. That's really what the issues that they've been
Yeah.
having.
And I mean, you know, it's funny because I need to tweet her my personal philosophy on this, and that is that, you know, this notion of partnership and even this traditional notion of relationships and submission, which is a dirty word, especially a dirty word in the feminist movement, it is a choice. And I had this conversation with my daddy like almost 10 years ago when I had this moment of revelation in terms of thinking about what I wanted in a partner and being traditional. And I was like, I realized that I have a choice to willingly submit to this relationship and playing certain roles, and some of them may be more traditional than others, but that is a choice, and choices can be acts of power. And so, you know, if she doesn't want to cook and she can't cook, that's one thing. But then she needs to understand how that's going to work in her situation. But I'm just tired of like that being held up as her paragon of feminism, like this damn cooking thing. I'm like tired of hearing about it every daggone week. Fix him a hot dog, or go down to the corner store and go get him a hot dog, some other street meat, and like get over it.
And the mama said, I don't know about the hot dog. We don't eat hot dogs over here, you know, because we bougie. But the mama said, the mama, bougie and ratchet at the same time. But the mama said, you know, you need to rub on him a little bit. You know, you need to make him feel like you like him. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. Monet, you losing.
Yeah, she's losing.
Both of y'all losing. Von's losing too.
I know, but
Him and his
you know.
civil conversation. We didn't even talk about that. The fact that he said, I like it when we're being civil to each other. Monet said,
I was Team Monet right there.
civil.
I
And I'm
was
like,
going to Team.
everybody deserves more than civil. Civil is what you do with your coworkers that you don't like. Not your husband. What's
Yeah.
civil?
Right. Civil means you're heading to the divorce court. Like, I mean, just yeah, it was not. It was a very poor choice of words. I will say that this week's episode seemed to focus more on the guy's emotional thing, their emotional needs, and I found that to be pretty interesting because I don't think that we talk about that in our culture very much, about kind of what men's emotional needs are and how they get hurt and how they express it or don't express it, how they have fears. And you know, I thought it was interesting when Vaughn was like, okay, but we done been on TV, and like, if we get divorced, we gotta tell every person that comes into our life, like, especially because we've been on TV, like we gotta
Well, I think he needs to think about, we have been on TV, and if you guys get a divorce, everybody is like, we understand. So I think that he needs to realize that too. Now, Doug and Jamie, I don't know that. Well, first of all, Courtney and Jason or whatever, every time they come over, I'm like, is it time? Let me go get a snack or something. Like, I can't deal with
They're
it.
so happy. Their worst problem is he's going to like fire camp or whatever it is. But
I'm like, for a month, get over it, girl. Y'all supposed to be married for a life. Like, I don't know how we're gonna make it through his fire training.
school,
And he's like
I
30
think it is
days,
like
girl.
no, I think it's like 6 months. But really, I mean,
I thought he said 30. Well, even if it's 6 months, girl, stop it.
I'm like, he bought you a T-shirt that had your wedding day on it, and keep calm, and then like his little last name. I thought it was
That was cute
adorable.
though.
It was real cute, and I was like, y'all are gonna be okay. Like, I
But
like
Doug
seeing
and
the good people.
Jamie, I have been thumbs down for Jamie from the beginning because she is passive aggressive. She is mean. She is just. She needs to go to counseling on her own and resolve her issues before she tries to bring her craziness into other people's lives.
How
That's
did
my
she get
thought.
past? How did she get past the
Exactly.
screening process? Because she really does have some
Security, come
issues.
get her.
She really has some issues, and I feel sorry for her because I think that this stuff has made her face those issues. But I kind of feel the same way about her as I do kind of Monet with the "Can't you just fix him something to eat real quick?" I'm like, this man needed a cigarette. Why? Because you got on his damn nerves. That's why he needed a cigarette.
He was stressed. You
And I
stressed him
was like,
out. And
he
you're
wasn't
not
smoking
giving him
before.
none. You need to release some way.
I was
I
like,
mean, he laying up, he's spooning beside you because you want to be cuddly now, because you like him now, and now you're still not giving him none. Poor baby.
and I'm like, this man just smoked one cigarette in a month. Like, and you must have really you didn't put him on the couch in the house. I mean, like,
He looked so sad laying on the couch.
and when,
He was too tall for that little divan.
all kind of crunched up, it was just pitiful. It was just pitiful. And I was just like, he is a good guy and he wants to stay with her. But I also fear that he might have broken bird syndrome.
Now tell me what that is.
Broken bird syndrome is the really really nice guy who sees the broken bird, this really vulnerable young woman, and their intentions are good. Don't get me wrong, and he may save her, but they really have this kind of, I can save her. She's so broken. I want to take the little baby out of the nest, and I'm the abominable snowman, and I will rub her and hug her and feed her and take care of her.
So in our
And it's not.
terminology, we call that a captain, right? So he's trying to save somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I think that
Let me translate for you.
right. So yeah, I think that he's a captain, and I don't know, maybe that's what he needs, but captains oftentimes get hurt because they can't save that person.
Right.
They cannot save that person. She needs to go get some help. I'm really concerned that they let her go through the screening process, and I was like, y'all, I mean, she's got some serious issues. So
They let her go through the screening process because she knows how reality TV works. She makes good TV. That's what it is.
Right. And sadly, they needed a demographic from the trailer. Because everybody else seems to, I mean, you got one family that is like, what is it? The little cutesy couple, neither one parent is about to die, and the other parent, they come to the wedding, and they just on their own doing it, doing it. And them, Vaughn and Monet's parents are like, we need y'all to get y'all stuff together. Y'all are cute, make it work. And Doug's family seems happy, well adjusted. They were like, we don't know about this girl's side eye. And then her family is just a cluster, you know what. And so,
They seem to be happy,
TV.
like, girl, you made it. You better take that, dude.
They were like, kids, call him Uncle Doug. And she was like, I don't know about Uncle Doug. No, he's Uncle Doug. Like, we need him to stay. He's the best thing that ever happened to his family. So, it's just, yeah, she makes for good TV. It's a narrative. So, anyway, it is 11:03. Do we have any recommendations for tonight?
I do have some recommendations. Do you have some?
I really don't. Except for Benadryl.
Good.
Buy it. If you are allergic to ragweed, it is ragweed season. Knock yourself out at Costco with the knockoff brand of Benadryl. Cheers.
And that is your recommendation.
That's my recommendation.
That's that Bailey's kicking in. Okay. So the first recommendation I have is my real recommendation. I got two tonight. So the first is the writings of Stacia L. Brown. She is like an amazing writer. I first came in contact with her writing on postbougie.com, and she was a contributing writer there. And I first started reading her when she found out she was pregnant with her daughter, and Her writings are haunting. They make you feel. They're everything that I think good writing is. And she
Mm,
wrote 5 essays related to Michael Brown and the Ferguson issue. And I think those essays are really touching. They're poignant. So I recommend that you go and read that. So we'll put a link to that in our show notes so you can go check her
awesome.
out. But I do have a restaurant recommendation.
Love those.
Yes. So let me show you what I got
Oh boy,
on our
she's
trip
got
to the
props.
corner store. It is called, can you see these? They are
Are those
called
the
Cheetos Flaming Hot Popcorn. So you may be familiar with the Cheetos Hot,
Yes,
see? Exactly. You may
yes.
be familiar with the Cheetos Hot Flaming, like Cheetos and things like that. But this is popcorn. Let me tell you something about this popcorn. This popcorn has like an underlying flavor of cheese, and then they put the hotness on top of it. It is delicious. It is tasty. And look, it's only $1.49. And again, these are things that you can only find in your neighborhood corner store. You cannot find this probably at the Kroger's. You can't find this at the Hy-Vee. You might not even find this at the Piggly Wiggly. So you need to go to the bodega, the corner store, the convenience store, and get you
Whatever they
some of
call it
the,
in your hood.
yeah, whatever they
Um,
call it, the Cheetos popcorn flaming hot.
oh,
Now let me also clarify. So actually my sister is the one who found this for our family, because I feel like this is a legend now. And when she opened a bag in the car and we started eating it, and we're like, wow, this is tasty. We need to get some more. So we stopped at another convenience store, and she went in, and she came out with Cheetos flaming hot pop puffs or something. Not the same thing. It looks similar, but it's not the same thing. They're like the little fat
those are like
Cheetos,
the fat Cheetos. Yeah, yeah.
no, not the same thing. The popcorn is what you want to get. It needs to say popcorn on it. Okay, so that's my recommendation. There you go.
Awesome. I still haven't found the bacon sunflower seeds. I found other flavors, and I just, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, dang, I should have ordered some off of Amazon today because I still have not
Get your
peeped
Amazon Prime to
those.
working.
I
And
got,
go
I
ahead.
know, it's about to come due today, come due this month too to renew, but I gotta get me some. I gotta get me
Well,
some.
future adopter said she had some and they were delicious. So,
She did
so
co-sign on your
therefore,
recommendation.
my recommendations are on point. You need to try these flaming hot popcorn. So, future adopter, you have an assignment now to go out and find these and report
So
back.
let it be known that Mimi of Complicated Melody has the best corner store apparently ever. Apparently, I live in just a neighborhood that is just. I gotta go find a neighborhood. I gotta go find a different kind. Like apparently, we don't have enough of a particular demographic.
No, it's a field trip. Trust me. We're on a
I
field
gotta
trip.
drive around.
All right. So, where can they find you? So we can wrap this up. Where can they find you, ABM?
And well, you can find me at Adoptive Black Mom, WordPress.com. You can find me on Twitter at Adoptive Black Mom, and email adoptiveblackmom@gmail.com. Mimi, where can they find you in the E streets?
They can find me on the WordPress at Complicated Melody with an I.wordpress.com. You can find me on the Twitters at Mimi Complex at at Mimi Complex. And you can email me at it's the
One
wine down.
down.
hmm You can find me on Gmail at complicatedmelody with an I at gmail.com. And I like to tell everybody that we are now on iTunes.
Yes.
Yay! So you can search for us at Water
Yes.
on Store, at Water and Stir on iTunes. You can look for us under adoption. We're using the keywords. We're
All
trying
the
to do our SEO.
keywords. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. Awesome. We're on the come up.
Yes, we trying
Big
to
thing.
make this a big things.
Don't nobody steal our card idea.
Which oh yeah, right. our,
Our new homework division.
our
Anyway,
minority communities of color adoption cards.
right.
We're about to do it right now. So,
Family. All right. We will see everyone in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us, and peep us on our podcast page or Google Hangout. Thanks so much.
all right. See you in 2 weeks.